By late June 1976, over 100 hostages were being held at gunpoint inside a fortified airport terminal in Entebbe, Uganda. That location was more than 4,000 kilometers away from Israeli soil. The hijackers established a strict, non-negotiable deadline. If their demands were not met by 2 p.m. on July 4th, they would begin executing the passengers. This photograph captures the transition into captivity. The passengers of Air France Flight 139 were forced off their plane under armed guard and marched directly onto the tarmac by East African authorities. Standard diplomatic channels failed almost immediately. Uganda's president, Idi Amin, shown here, claimed to be a neutral mediator. In reality, his military forces had surrounded the airport to actively protect the hijackers. When you are locked out of diplomacy and separated by a continent, speed and extreme deception become the only viable methods for survival. To mount a rescue, the strike team needed exact details of the building's interior. They started by sending agents to Paris to interrogate a group of non-Israeli passengers the hijackers had released, mapping out enemy weapons and guard rotations. Next, they secured a critical structural advantage. An Israeli construction firm, Salel Bonet, had built the Entebbe terminal a decade earlier and still possessed the original building blueprints. By layering hostage testimonies over the architectural blueprints, planners created a 3D replica pinpointing exactly where the hijackers were stationed. They used this replica to calculate the exact physical distance from the entry doors to the hostages, choreographing their infiltration pathways down to the meter. Precise architectural intelligence turns a chaotic, unknown hostile environment into a predictable mathematical grid. To transport a strike force and their vehicles, the military selected 4 C-130 Hercules transport planes. These aircraft are specifically designed to carry heavy payloads and execute rapid landings on unlit, rough runways. This map traces their approach. Launching at night, the planes maintained an extremely low altitude, hugging the surface of the Red Sea to fly entirely under the coverage of international radar networks. Approaching Entebbe over Lake Victoria, the pilots shut down 2 of their 4 engines, drastically reducing their noise signature before touching down in the dark. In long-distance asymmetric operations, bridging the physical gap undetected is the most vulnerable phase. If the planes were spotted here, the mission would fail instantly. Once on the ground, the commandos needed to bypass the airport's perimeter security. They rolled out a custom vehicle convoy designed to perfectly mimic Idi Amin's personal transport. They utilized a black Mercedes exactly like the one seen here, flanked by Land Rovers. To complete the illusion, the assault team drove toward the terminal at exactly 40 kilometers per hour, matching the dictator's precise arrival speed. However, their intelligence was slightly out of date. Just 2 days prior, Amin had purchased a white Mercedes and started using it exclusively. The sudden appearance of the black car instantly aroused the suspicion of 2 Ugandan guards. As the guards raised their weapons to stop the convoy, an Israeli commando fired an unsuppressed rifle, a weapon without a silencer. The loud crack of the gunshot echoed across the runway, blowing their cover completely. The most meticulous deception plan can shatter upon contact with a single, outdated piece of localized intelligence. With the alarm raised, the commandos abandoned the vehicles, pivoting to a high-speed sprint across the runway while taking active fire from the control tower. Breaching the main hall, the assault team used megaphones to issue strict commands in both Hebrew and English, ordering everyone to stay down. This protocol was designed to instantly separate the prone hostages from the standing targets. In the confusion of the gunfire, one young hostage stood up. Mistaking him for a hijacker, a commando fired, resulting in a tragic, friendly casualty. The assault team then pushed into the connecting rooms. Operating within a highly compressed time frame, they systematically engaged and eliminated all 7 hijackers inside the terminal. In a breached environment, speed is your only defense against superior enemy numbers, but that same speed inherently increases the risk to the people you are trying to save. While the hostages were being secured, a secondary Israeli squad moved to the adjacent military runway to target a line of parked Ugandan Air Force MiG fighter jets. The squad destroyed 11 jets on the tarmac. This tactical asset denial ensured that no high-speed fighters could take off and shoot down the heavy, slow C-130 transports during their escape. With the airspace clear, the the planes took off and executed a pre-arranged logistical pivot. They flew to neighboring Kenya for a rapid refueling stop, giving them the fuel capacity needed to make the return trip. A successful extraction requires actively dismantling the enemy's future capability to pursue the rescue force. This graphic tracks the timeline of the assault. From the moment the first plane touched down to the moment the last plane lifted off, the entire ground operation was executed in exactly 53 minutes. The C-130s safely completed the journey, arriving back here at Ben Gurion Airport, the exact location where the passenger's flight had originally departed. The mission came at a severe human cost. 3 hostages lost their lives in the crossfire, and the commander of the assault unit, Yoni Netanyahu, was killed during the initial breach. But out of 106 captives, 102 were brought home alive. These images document the dense, celebratory crowds that gathered to welcome the surviving families back to Israel. Managing high-stakes risk means having a plan before a crisis hits. For your own family, proactive protection means securing a pure-term life insurance policy to ensure their financial safety if the unexpected happens. Tactical supremacy is achieved through perfect intelligence, customized logistics, and relentless execution speed.